What's up guys? Long time no see. So about 3 months ago, I uploaded a video detailing one of the best budget video card purchases out there, the 750 Ti from AliExpress for only 60 bucks. And the video was very well received. You guys really liked it and you found it very, very helpful. But I did get a lot of questions regarding the video card and its compatibility with pre-built desktops. After conducting some research and talking to a few friends about it, I was able to make a guide on how most of the pre-builts work and their compatibility with external video cards, and an example for you guys to follow. So let's check this out. A common question that I received was, will the Dell Optiplex 790 work with the 750 Ti, or is the Dell Inspiron 3010 compatible with the video card? And while it's pretty much impossible to make a very thorough list of all the different pre-built computers that will work with external video cards, there is a very short and easy to follow algorithm that will make sure your pre-built computer is compatible with your video card about 80 to 90% of the time. Firstly, your video card should not need any external power, meaning that it does not require any external plugs from the power supply to function properly. To check for that, look for 6 and/or 8-pin connectors on the video card. If you don't have any, then congratulations, you passed the first step. Secondly, if you're using a pre-built computer from around 2011, 2012, or earlier, then you want to stick with NVIDIA. A lot of older pre-built computers, specifically from Dell, only came with the proper BIOS drivers to support NVIDIA video cards out of the box. Now, this doesn't mean that you can't use AMD video cards in the system. You can most of the time, but there's a lot more hassles and a lot of other things that you just have to do to make sure it works properly. So if you want to avoid all of that, just stick with NVIDIA. As far as pre-built computers go, you only need to check three different boxes. Box number 1. Make sure the motherboard has a PCI Express slot. Most computers built within the last 12 years have this, so it really shouldn't be an issue. Box number 2. Make sure the motherboard supports PCI Express Generation 2.0 or higher. You can find this information in the specification sheet of the desktop computer or the desktop computer's motherboard. A lot of newer video cards have issues with OEM motherboards that only support PCI Express Generation 1.0. Generation 2.0 isn't very new, so just like box number 1, this should apply to most modern desktops. And finally, box number 3, the power supply should be at the very least, 220 watts. The wattage needed varies on the components, but the lowest end power supply I've used that worked with the 750 Ti is 220 watts, so that's what I say is the bare minimum. If you want to be extra careful, then don't go under 250. And that's pretty much it. Another thing that I didn't really mention, because this is a physical or size limitation than anything else, but make sure your video card fits in the computer case. That means that if you don't want to use low profile video cards, then avoid slim towers and go for the regular desktop towers. As an example, I built this rock solid $135 gaming computer using a Dell Inspiron 620 that came with an i3 2100, 6 gigs of DDR3 memory, a 300 watt power supply, and a 320 gigabyte hard drive for $75. I bought the desktop about a year ago, so prices have dropped 10 to 15 bucks for a similarly spec system. Local classifieds are also a great place to look, and I was able to find better spec'd computers for the same price, or similarly spec'd computers for cheaper. Right now you can pick up an HP Compaq Elite 8200 for 45 bucks before shipping, and it comes with an i3 2100, 8 gigs of RAM, and a 320 gigabyte hard drive on eBay. For the price, it's awesome, and it works great with a 750 Ti. If you can't find a PC that rivals the price or performance of the Compaq 8200, then I recommend picking this up. Installation is very straightforward. Firstly, turn on the computer without any modification to ensure that it works properly and it boots to the BIOS. After that, turn off the computer, unplug everything from the desktop, and open up the system. Locate the PCI Express slot. It should have a little flap at the very end, and remove any video brackets on the case's edge to make room for the video card's I/O shield. After that, install the video card into the PCIe slot, install Windows 10 or any drivers that you need, and you're pretty much good to go. Gaming on this computer is great for the price and okay overall if you keep your expectations in check. Remember that you're spending under 150 bucks on a gaming computer, so you're not going to be able to play a lot of the higher end games like Far Cry 5 or Assassin's Creed Origins without sacrificing a good chunk of graphical fidelity. But for esports titles and even for some heavier games like GTA 5 and PUBG, this thing worked pretty well. I benchmarked Overwatch, Fortnite, Rainbow Six Siege, F1 2017, GTA 5, and PUBG on the $135 gaming computer. And to get an idea of bottlenecks in the system, I also benchmarked the 750 Ti with my Ryzen 5 2400G and 16 gigs of RAM in dual channel clocked at 2933. Overwatch had very smooth gameplay, and I felt no difference between the $135 odds box and the 2400G PC. If Overwatch is a main game for you, then this computer will work just fine with no performance degradation. The Battle Royale game started pushing the computer a little bit more. Fortnite was very laggy and choppy during the drop from the bus, but was smooth after landing. It wasn't as smooth as the Ryzen 5 computer, but it's not something that was incredibly noticeable either. Regardless, very playable as you can see. Rainbow Six Siege was very similar to my 2400G PC as well. Gameplay felt fluid and smooth, and I didn't experience any weird performance glitches in the benchmark nor in a match. Everything worked great. F1 2017 performed well overall, and don't let the minimum FPS fool you. It was rare for the computer to dip below 40 FPS, and it stayed in the 50s and 60s most of the time. It didn't feel any different from the Ryzen computer. The computer performed better than I expected in GTA 5, and it was one of the smoothest games on the list. Although there is an obvious bottleneck between this computer, the OzBox, and a more modern PC, the experience still remains smooth. I experienced similar issues in PUBG as I did in Fortnite. The drop was very laggy and the game took a minute or two to quote unquote warm up, but after that, it was an okay experience. PUBG is harder to run than Fortnite, so there was a larger bottleneck here that was more noticeable, but it was still playable. Temperatures were definitely okay for both the CPU and the video card. I tested and gamed with the side panel of the computer on, so it's just like a regular, more realistic test, something that you guys would do if you were actually using the computer, and they both stayed under 70 degrees Celsius in all of the games that I tested. Now, my only issue with this computer, and of course your mileage may vary because your cooler and your fan depend on the model that you pick up, but the CPU fan is loud. Here's an example. Yeah, it's very loud. But besides that, this is a fantastic base for a computer. For only about $100 to $130, you get yourself something that is upgradable to an i7 and 16 gigs of RAM in the future. And although you are pretty limited on your video card choices, the 1050 Ti is basically the highest you can do here without upgrading the power supply. That's still more than enough for pretty much any game out there, 1080p, 30 FPS at the very minimum. So, to recap, 1. Buy a pre-built computer with at least PCIe Gen 2.0 and a 220 watt power supply. If you're not sure which one to buy, then pick up the HP Elite 8200 that I have linked in the description. It's only about 45 bucks as of making this video. Make sure your computer also has at least a second generation i3, which is the Sandy Bridge architecture. Anything higher than that is also awesome if it's in your budget, just so you have the opportunity to upgrade to an i7 in the future, because you will probably need 4 cores and 8 threads at some point. Make sure you stick to NVIDIA video cards, and if you want a recommendation, then just pick up the $60 750 Ti that I also have linked in the description from AliExpress. It's authentic. If you want to check out my review of it, that's also in the description. But that's it for this video, guys. If you liked the video, then leave a like, share, and all of that stuff. And if you loved it, subscribe and hit the bell notification below so you are notified of all types of OztalksHW content. Also, make sure you follow me on Twitter because that's where I usually update you guys on things going on in my personal life and also on the channel. Also, shout out to the new video editor of the OzTalks hardware family. Ano Eto, thanks for making this video. It's kind of weird because I'm talking about you making it, but you haven't made it yet because I'm just recording. But I'll see you guys in the next one.
Oh my gosh.